I know it might seem impossible, but today is the 7th anniversary of the release of Halloween 2018. And with that being the case, I thought there was no better time than now than to take a step back and reflect. Hey, what is up, you guys? Nick here, and today I want to talk to you guys about Halloween 2018. Now, a couple days ago, I did a video on Halloween Ends, reflecting back to the time that was 2022 when that movie was coming out. This is going to be a very similar video. Whether you're a fan or not of Halloween 2018, that's totally irrelevant. This video is for everybody. I simply want to take a step back into time. I want to talk about what that experience was like leading up to it, my initial thoughts on the film, and then where I sit today with it. Because this is one of my more controversial opinions for whatever reason, the fact that I'm not a huge fan of 2018. So if you're a long-suffering Halloween fan like me, I want you to take a step back for a second. I want you to think about the doldrums, the times that were 2009 to 2016. I want you to think about how many stops and starts we got. Halloween 3D, Halloween Returns. It seemed like every other year or so we were getting an announcement on a new project being in development with the Halloween franchise, though nothing would come to fruition. And it was starting to get frustrating. See, for me, I was somebody that wanted to see a sequel to Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. I love that movie, and I think most of you guys know that. I wanted to see Scout come back. I wanted to see Tyler Mane come back. And as the years would go on, I was starting to accept it was less and less likely that we would ever see a continuation from those two movies. I had accepted that, and eventually got to a point where I didn't really care. I just wanted to see Michael Myers back. But for a while there, it seemed like this franchise was just cursed. And I know saying that now sounds crazy, especially given what Friday the 13th and A Nightmare on Elm Street have put up with over the last decade plus. But at that time, it really did feel that way. Because in that time frame, we had a new A Nightmare on Elm Street movie, one that made a lot of money and people thought was going to get a sequel. There was still talk of a continuation of Friday the 13th 09. But Halloween 2 seemed very final for Halloween, at least at that time. We didn't know where we were going to go, and I was honestly bummed because I was really in the throes of my collecting of the franchise and becoming a diehard fan. And I felt like just when I had really got into this thing and really become obsessed, it was just halted and nothing happened. Well, in 2016, that changed when we got the announcement that Blumhouse had the rights to Halloween. They were bringing Jamie Lee Curtis back, they were bringing Nick Castle back, John Carpenter back, and they were going to make a true sequel to Halloween 1978. I remember the internet breaking, guys. Like, I'm going to be totally honest with you. This was huge, a very big deal. This was back at the time when I wasn't making videos at all. Like, maybe once a year I'd randomly put my phone up and go, let me record something. No editing, no nothing. And I did a video on this because I was so excited about it. And I wanted other people to see that excitement. And I wanted to document it. I don't know, like, it was a moment in history for me. I couldn't believe that we were getting Jamie Lee Curtis back in a Halloween movie. After Halloween Resurrection, I think almost every single Halloween fan was like, okay, that's the end. No, it wasn't. And as the months would go on and more details would come to light, I got even more excited. To find out that John Carpenter was scoring this movie was incredible. To find out that he was more of a hands-on producer than he'd normally been over the years was awesome. Now, what I mean by that is John actually did spend a little bit of time on set here. He did go over David Gordon Green and Danny McBride's script. He did give input. A lot of times, people like John, when they're a producer of something, they're just there to collect a check. They're not doing anything whatsoever with the project. But John was more involved in this than most executive producers would be. So I was hyped. I was also really looking forward to the idea that Michael Myers was going to be stripped back down to his roots. No motive, nothing. I admittedly was kind of salty that they were erasing Halloween 2 and Halloween H2O because I love those three movies together. I think the three of them work really well, and I love Laurie Strode in H2O. But I was so excited at the prospect of Michael getting to go back to being a motiveless killer. I was like, you know what? Let's give it a shot. I remember all the trailers coming out and people that I would see on my Snapchat, on my Instagram that hardly ever talk about horror movies were sharing these trailers. They could not wait to see this movie. I knew this was going to be something special. I knew this was going to be a phenomenon. but I didn't know that I wouldn't love it. Now, I want to preface here by saying Halloween 2018 was up against it. It's not Halloween 2018's fault. The marketing machine behind this thing was incredible. To get some of the original players back in big ways was amazing. To get the idea back that Michael Myers was truly a motiveless killer, The Shape, was awesome. I went into this movie with sky-high expectations. I don't think I've ever gone into a Halloween movie expecting more than I did with 2018. I saw all 3 Blumhouse trilogy films on opening night and both of Rob Zombie's Halloween movies on opening night. This was the one that I could not contain my excitement for. I remember working that day and I was so excited. I could not wait to get to 7 p.m. that night. My ADHD was just raging. I could not sit still. I couldn't think straight. I remember going to the theater. I remember sitting in that theater and I remember it starting. And to get the theme and the OG pumpkin kind of coming back to life, like, I loved that. That was awesome. The opening had me. And then as the movie was going, I just felt like there was something missing the entire time. And I walked out of that theater and I remember being really disappointed. And a lot of my peers on here actually had opposite responses to this movie at first. They were over the moon. And then as the years have gone on, they've been like, nah, maybe it wasn't as great as I thought it was. I was the opposite. I actually started to like it more the more I watched it, but it settled pretty firmly where it is for me in my ranking. And so I gave this thing multiple chances. I saw this 3 times in theaters because I really wanted to give this a fair shake. The second time, I knew what to expect, and I went in with absolutely no expectations. I was like, okay, I'm not super excited anymore. I can pay attention to the things going on in the periphery. And then the third time was really just about, let me see what I can enjoy. And honestly, this thing was even bigger than I ever anticipated it would be. I was probably one of tens of thousands of people that saw this multiple times in theaters. I saw so many people that never talk about horror movies talking about this movie. I saw the returns for the opening weekend and I was beside myself. I was sitting there thinking 50 million is probably doable and that would be a huge deal. That would already eclipse Halloween 2. Oh no, it did much more than that. Halloween 2018 is still the highest grossing slasher of all time. That is insane to me because although I knew people missed Michael Myers and I knew how iconic and legendary this character in this franchise was, nobody saw this movie doing the business it did. Nobody. The trades didn't, the fans didn't. Nobody could have known how big this thing was going to be. So no matter my thoughts on the movie, I was super happy to see Halloween back in such a big way because I knew I was going to get more. And I hoped that would mean better. Now, since this thing got released on home video and since I've had the chance to watch it numerous times since, I really do feel like my opinion on this movie is pretty concrete. Halloween 2018 does a lot of really great things. Michael Myers is fantastic. James Jude Courtney, you are the Shape. The Mask, this is probably the best since the original. I mean, Rob Zombie's is pretty good too, but it's right up there. The music, dude, Carpenter, his son Cody, and Daniel Davies killed it with all 3 of these scores. The atmosphere, on point. That had been missing in some Halloween movies up to this point. Resurrection, H2O, no. This one nailed it. The kills, the effects, oh yeah, give me all of it. But with all that being said, there was something missing. And after so many viewings, I finally settled on what it was. It didn't feel like the Laurie Strode I knew. It didn't feel like the Halloween franchise I knew. Now, someone might retort, well, hey, that's because this is a different Laurie Strode. This is an alternate timeline. We're going down a different path. What if X happened instead of Y? I understand that. But I guess for me, I had decades of Laurie Strode baked into my subconscious already. So I kind of have expectations with that character and her interactions with Michael Myers. And I just didn't feel the synergy there. And I've said this many times before, and I will continue to say this. I am not the arbiter of how people are supposed to process trauma, nor will I ever claim to be. However, it did feel a little overboard for somebody that had this happen 40 years ago. This person's been incarcerated. You're both geriatric at this point. It seemed a little much. I'm not saying she wouldn't still be traumatized, but that much, after 40 years, you're preparing every day for him to get out. At what point do you give up? When he's in a wheelchair and you don't fear him anymore? It just seemed a little weird. The events of Halloween 2 being canon would have sold this a lot better to me, and I've made videos on that. But every time I've watched this movie, except for the first time since I was on such a high I couldn't even focus, I have just felt it. I felt that this Laurie felt different. This relationship felt different, and it didn't feel the same to me. That tether wasn't as strong. I think there's something to be said. While we can admit that Michael Myers being her brother inherently weakens the character, I also think it's so ingrained in our DNA at this point, we kind of think of that no matter what. And this movie tries to blatantly call out that, oh, that's not real, and that was a little on the nose for me. But my biggest thing with Halloween 2018 is it just doesn't feel like the anniversary film, the event that Halloween H2O did to me. And Halloween H2O still does to me. Halloween H2O gets a ton wrong, but it gets that right. The Laurie and Michael showdown, the Laurie and Michael connection, it gets that right. The character of Laurie Strode. I've just never really felt it here with 2018. Now, Jamie Lee Curtis is good in the role. Do not get me wrong. It is not a poorly written or acted role, but it just doesn't feel right. There's something missing there. And I will also say Halloween 2018 definitely feels like a product of its time. I don't know how well this movie will age, and obviously time will tell the story there. But there's just some jokes, some interactions between some of the younger characters that I don't know if they're really going to hold up 20 years from now. Whereas I feel like the relationships in 78 are kind of timeless. This is different. I just felt something missing with a lot of the supporting cast here too. Because they wanted to have their cake and eat it too. We want our Laurie Strode anniversary movie, but we also want to introduce new fodder for Michael Myers and new generations of Strode women that could potentially carry the torch. And it all just ended up feeling very muddled. None of the minor background characters really get much of anything to do at all. They're really just fodder, but they have screen time in the beginning, but you don't get to know them or care for them. The Strodes, same thing. We're supposed to care about them, but they're just kind of there as a reminder that Laurie had a kid and a granddaughter, and it's this generational trauma thing. But they don't really get a lot to do there. And honestly, a lot of this, I don't fault David Gordon Green and Danny McBride for. I know some of you do, and that's fine. I don't really, because I imagine it had to be really hard. You want to do a hard reset here of this franchise that has gone on for 40 years, but you also want to try to bring enough that's familiar. It's probably very difficult to walk that tightrope, and it shows throughout this movie. They did some great things, but as time goes on, for me, it just becomes clearer and clearer that I'm never going to truly love 2018. I like it. I appreciate it. I don't mind watching it. But it's not one of the first ones I think of or that I go to when I'm watching the Halloween franchise. And some people got way up in arms when I did my ranking because they were like, how can you put 2018 second to last? Understand, there is a massive gap, like a Grand Canyon-sized gap between Resurrection and 2018. Like, they're not even in the same stratosphere. I like 18. I don't like Resurrection at all. I'll watch 18. I'll have a good time. Resurrection? No, absolutely not. So I don't want people to think that that means that I hate the movie or I think it's a bad movie. No, it's probably objectively better than a lot of the movies in this franchise on a technical level. But for me, it's not one of my personal favorites, and that's why I rank it where I do. So I guess I'm left here with remembering how exciting that time was, but also how disappointing it was when it finally came. But also admitting that it was never going to live up to my lofty expectations, while also admitting that it still could have done a few things better. I don't know. Halloween 2018 was a very interesting time for me, and I think a lot of us as fans. But at the end of the day, I'm happy that it happened, and I'm happy it was so successful, because it gave us Michael Myers for years to come, and movies that, in my opinion, got better. But upon reflection, that's all I've got to say about Halloween 2018. I want to hear your guys' history with this movie. Tell me how you were feeling when it was announced. Tell me how you were feeling walking into that theater. How did you feel when you walked out? And where do you sit with it today? Whatever it is, I want to hear down below in the comments section, so please sound off. I want to thank each and every one of you for watching this video. Please make sure to leave a like on it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. This is Nick at the Lost River Drive-In, and I'm pulling out.